Chapter 5, Musk Ox, North America's most underrated game. The little Arctic buffalo isn't the most difficult animal to bag, but he's unique and uniquely beautiful, and the country he lives in provides its own challenges. Except the few guides and outfitters who pursue them, I seriously doubt that any modern sport hunters are genuine experts on hunting musk oxen. They're interesting and attractive trophies, and since they're a bona fide North American game animal, a fair number of sportsmen pursue them. However, I doubt that a great many hunt them more than once, and I doubt that anyone hunts them on a regular basis. I'm certainly not an expert on musk oxen, but I've hunted them twice, once in fall and once in spring, and since then I hunted them in Greenland in the summer. So I've hunted them 3 times, both fall, spring, and summer. I suspect that gives me at least twice the experience of most people who've hunted this animal. To tell the truth, I'd kind of like to go again, so I guess that makes me a real fan of this strange beast. The Latin name of Ovibos moschatus means musky sheep ox, which comes pretty close to describing the creature. Biologically, he possesses some characteristics of the sheep clan and some of the wild oxen. Like most folks, I tend to simply call them musk ox in any number. Technically, however, musk ox is singular and the proper plural is musk oxen. In appearance, he's actually very similar to our bison and must be a cousin on some level. However, there's no real comparison in size between a mature musk ox and even a half-grown bison. The extremely long hair all over makes it natural to overestimate badly the size of musk oxen. They look as big as buffalo, but it's all fluff. Bulls from harsher environments, such as Alaska's Nunivak Island and Canada's offshore islands, rarely weigh more than 600 pounds, including all that hair and the wonderful horns. Bulls from the mainland are indeed larger, but 750 pounds live weight would be a very big musk ox. In other words, they're actually about the same weight as a bull elk. That long hair that fools you is one of the neat things about this animal. The outer hair is long and fairly coarse. Single strands can be as long as 24 inches. Underneath this is a layer of fine wool, called kiviat first by Greenland Eskimos and now by most everyone. This wool obviously protects the animal from its extreme environment, and in years gone by was collected for use in sweaters and such. I have a mounted muskox head, and it's actually one of the most striking game mounts I own. At first glance it's huge, but you can stick your arm into that hair almost to the elbow from any angle. My second muskox, by the way, was done like a closed-mouth bear rug with the head attached. That's a particularly interesting way to preserve a muskox trophy, but you sure don't want to stumble onto the horns in the middle of the night. Legend has it that the closest you could come to getting hurt by a muskox would be to trip over one in that fashion. This is simply not true. I wouldn't go so far as to classify a muskox as dangerous, but they do have the equipment and often the temperament to turn the tables on the unwary. Their classic circular formation is a primary defense against wolves, but it's not a static circle. Part of this formation is for individuals to make short charges from the circle, then retreat. Bow hunters who occasionally approach such a circle within, wolf range, have had to do some fast scrambling. Bulls often group together in 2s and 3s and can be quite protective of each other. It was exactly this scenario that the great sheep hunter Otis Chandler ran into a couple of years ago. They'd shot one bull, but its buddy wouldn't leave. Chandler took a charge from the second bull and was hammered badly. Getting to help, immobile on a sled with a shattered shoulder, must have been a cold and agonizing ordeal. That's just to say that, as with any wild animal, you can't take chances. It is not to say that the muskox is akin to the Cape buffalo. He's also very easy to spot. In winter, a herd stands out from miles away, like pepper sprinkled onto salt. Even in summer, musk oxen are easy to glass in their wide-open terrain. Now, that glassing can take some time, especially on the mainland where they range widely over huge country. Finding a bull can take days, however, most generally, a herd is found. Musk ox hunting is probably the most universally successful hunt in North America. When Canada first opened, many musk ox herds hadn't been hunted for decades. Wolves were their only enemy, and it was common for a herd to circle instantly when hunters approached. Today, with more permits and more pressure, getting a shot is a bit more difficult. A muskox herd is more likely to flee than stand when they become aware of the hunters. This has made bow hunting much more difficult, but approaching within rifle range of a centerfire rifle is still not a huge problem in most cases. The real challenge with muskox hunting is the country and the weather, and that's part of the charm of this hunt. The first muskox hunt I did was clear back in 1981, when Canada's Northwest Territories had just started to issue non-resident permits. That hunt was in November, and the cold was absolutely incredible. The hunting day was short, too. As I recall, we had sort of half-light from 9 in the morning until noon, then perhaps 2 or 3 hours of genuine daylight, then half-light again from before 3 until full dark before 5. It was just as well. I honestly couldn't have withstood the cold for a longer hunting day. The second hunt was in the spring, in April before breakup. The days were quite long, and on a couple of clear days, the weather was absolutely glorious, perhaps as high as 15 degrees, with a pale sun and little wind. However, we caught a storm on that trip, a serious one. We had the equipment for it. Our tent camp could have withstood the gales just fine, but we were luckier than that. We saw it coming as we headed along the coastline out of Coppermine, headed to a crossing across the ice pack to Victoria Island. We made for a little cluster of summer fishing shacks our Inuit guides knew of and weathered the storm quite snugly. We had quite a crew on that hunt. Myself, Canadian photographer Sherman Hines, gunmaker Art Alphin of the A-Square Company, and Colonel Charles Askins, last of the old-time gun riders. Askin entertained us through 2 days of storm with tales of the old border patrol and such, and I only wish I'd had a tape recorder. When it cleared, we proceeded across the Queen Maud Strait, set up a very comfortable tent camp, and proceeded to take our muskoxen. The history of muskox hunting is very old and very new, with darn little in between. At one time, the animals were probably incredibly plentiful, both in Greenland and the Canadian Arctic, but during the latter years of the last century and the early years of this one, muskoxen were badly depleted by trappers, whalers, natives with their newly acquired firearms, and market hunters. Perhaps surprisingly, some of the worst slaughter occurred right after the great bison herds were finished. Muskox were probably never close to extinction, but there was very little sport hunting between about World War I and the opening of Nunivak Island's transplanted herd about 35 years ago. A cruise through the muskox listings and records of North American big game is fascinating stuff. Even today, you'll find a few entries of trophies taken as far back as a century ago. And until the minimums were recently raised, there were 2 trophies taken by Admiral Perry, one in 1906 and one in 1909. There are also several entries taken in Greenland in the 1930s. And then you won't find anything until you get to Bert Kleinberger's 1959 Nunivak Island trophy. There have been quite a few transplants of muskox to places as far-flung as Norway and Siberia, but the Nunivak herd is the best known and most successful. In 1935 and 1936, 31 muskoxen from Greenland were released on Nunivak. They thrived, with the herd once reaching a high of 750, but generally stable at about 600. On a limited permit basis, this was muskox hunting for quite some years, but in 1980, Canada's Northwest Territories began issuing permits. There was good reason for opening the hunting, justification that remains valid today. After decades of protection and with little fanfare, Canada's muskoxen herds have literally exploded. From scattered remnants throughout the far north, the herd reached 25,000 in the late 70s, then 50,000 in the 80s. Today, they're plentiful enough that permits aren't a problem. Lack of hunters to purchase those permits is today's muskox management dilemma. For the first few years of Canada's muskox hunting, virtually all the hunting was done on Victoria, Banks, and a couple of other offshore islands. The record books began to be rewritten, and that short list of pre-1940 trophies was quickly overpowered by entries from the 1980s. More recently, hunts were authorized on the mainland. By 1983, it was obvious that Canada's islands produced bigger muskox, at least in the horns, than Nunivak. By the 1990s, it was equally obvious that the Canadian mainland produced the biggest muskoxen of all. The real shocker is that with muskoxen, the entire top 10 were taken or found within the last 15 years. This is unprecedented turnover that's found in no other category. The oldest top 10 head is from Perry River, Nunavut, taken in 1995. The second oldest are 2 bulls taken in 1996 near Kugluktuk. Of the other 7, 1 was taken in 1997, 1 in 1999. The remaining 5 are from 2000 to 2003. In In years gone by, hunters often differentiated between Greenland muskox and barren ground muskox. This was probably a ridiculous and futile effort, since the separation occurred when there was literally no muskox hunting anyway. However, biologists do recognize at least two subspecies of muskox: Ovibos moschatus, the barren ground muskox of the mainland and southern Victoria Island, and O.M. wardi, the Greenland muskox of the high Arctic islands and Greenland. On many individuals, the Greenland muskox can be differentiated by a white face, while faces are generally dark on barren ground muskox. A more clear difference, however, is almost certainly body size, which is reflected ultimately in potential horn growth. Earlier biologists also identified a third subspecies, O.M. nephocus, the Hudson Bay muskox, supposedly found northwest of Hudson Bay and on the Melville and Boothia peninsulas. This subspecies is generally discounted today. However, it's generally agreed that there are two subspecies, at least in a pure world. The problem is that numerous transplants, plus a broad intergrade area on Victoria Island, have muddied the waters so badly that today most record-keeping organizations have just one muskox category. This is probably as it should be. But they just get bigger and bigger, and as the populations continue to grow, probably will for some time. The traditional minimum score for many years was 90. When there was almost no muskox hunting and almost no muskox, that was a formidable goal. On Nunivak, it wasn't all that hard to hit 90. When Victoria Island first opened, and today with the mainland being hunted, reaching 90 isn't much of a trick. In fact, the majority of muskoxen taken in the Northwest Territories probably reached the Boone and Crockett minimum had they been officially measured. For those who wanted their name in the book, a muskox hunt was a sure ticket. In the future, it won't be so easy. Since 1992, the minimum score for inclusion in the all-time book has been 105, possibly the largest minimum score increase in Boone and Crockett's history. That, friends, isn't all that easy a mark to hit, and that's as it should be. I suspect there are plenty of muskox out there scoring well over 105. Some herds have yet to be hunted at all, and I suspect we don't yet know just how big muskoxen can get. However, it won't be a sure thing record book hunt with the new minimum, and there are several good reasons. First, muskoxen are very hard to judge. It's easy to see the drop of the horn and the length of the turned up tips, but the boss is very important in total score, and the full extent of the boss is hidden by that long hair. Since few hunters hunt muskoxen more than once, trophy judgment rests with the guides. With increasing experience, many of the Inuit hunters are getting better, but few are really adept at judging, and perhaps it's asking too much. When I took my first muskox in 1981, I darn near passed it. It looked good to me, but nobody could tell me whether it was a great one or just a normal mature bull. Finally, realizing I might not shoot, my guide suggested a storm might come, so I shot. By the Safari Club system, that bull was the world's record for several years. In 1993, after it had dried for a decade, I finally had it scored for B&C, and it was 110 and something. But I sure didn't know that when I pulled the trigger. The other problem is that muskox hunts are generally scheduled to be fairly short, rarely more than a week. Given the bad weather that's likely, hunters generally have the opportunity to see, judge, and pass just a very few muskoxen in the course of a normal hunt. And quite honestly, due to the extreme cold and arduous nature of travel by sled, whether pulled by dog or snow machine doesn't matter. The teeth-jarring bouncing is the same. Few hunters are going to pass a whole bunch of bulls looking for a monster. I'd personally like to see muskox hunting become a lot more popular. It must necessarily be fully guided, but as ultra-exotic expeditions go, the costs are quite reasonable. As a trophy, the muskox is much underrated. The horns are fascinating, but the long hair and mixture of white, tan, and black are just as beautiful as the horns. However, the hunt itself is much underrated as well. In this case, it isn't the shot. The shot will probably be quite easy and will probably be anticlimactic, provided you don't get confused by all that hair and shoot low. In this case, forget the old adage, shoot at hair, not at air. With muskox, the bottom third of what looks like chest is nothing but hair. Aim dead center right behind or on the shoulder, not low on the chest. The stalk will probably be easy, and the glassing easier still. But the hunt. Few of us will ever afford a polar bear hunt, and fewer still would really enjoy being out on the ice for 2 weeks. But a week or so of muskox hunting is a fabulous glimpse of the high Arctic, still North America's least known ecosystem. It's a strangely beautiful place, ferocious when the wind blows and eerily silent when it's still. The northern lights alone are worth the trip, and seeing how the Inuit guides deal with their environment is equally worth it. The Inuits I've hunted with are competent and fearless, and for a hunter from down south, there's much to fear in the high Arctic, especially the high Arctic itself. But those guys know how to deal with their habitat, and they know how to keep their hunters safe and comfortable. A muskox hunt with them is a short slice of an entirely different existence, and the muskox himself is a wonderful memento of a great hunting experience. Since I wrote those lines, Donna and I did a wonderful muskox hunt in Greenland in August, and that was a summer muskox hunt, and it's worth some comment. I was concerned that the hides might not be any good, but actually the hides were absolutely wonderful. And in that summer hunt, we hunted by boat along the fjords and the coast of southern Greenland. And the wonderful thing is we saw a lot of muskox and actually were able to pass without pressure of weather coming in or really the pure misery of being in that miserable cold. It was just absolutely a glorious experience. Greenland's even more difficult to get to than Canada's Nunavut, but that's another new option for muskox hunting that's absolutely a spectacular hunt. I really enjoyed that one.
When you go on an outfitted hunt, you're betting more than just your hard-earned cash. You're betting your vacation time, your safety, and your hunting dreams. You've got to get it right. There's a lot of ways to find a good outfitter, but a simple way is to go on my website, craigboddington.com, and take a look at our Craig Boddington Endorsed Outfitter program. Go on the website and you hook up directly with the outfitter. It's based on 40 years of hunting experience worldwide. My program's a group of outfitters that I believe in, and they believe in me. Hey, I know a good outfitter.